This is the Infinite Receiving podcast, helping conscious leaders tap into a wealth of abundance across all areas of your life and business. I'm Susie Ashworth, and I'll be sharing with you how you can upgrade your reality through quantum transformation, because you are ready for infinite receiving. Hey, you're going to love this episode. I am talking to my friend and mentor from afar, peer Carrie Green. She's the founder of the Female Entrepreneur Association. She is the author of best-selling books, She Means Business, and is also known as the Queen of Memberships. This is a really tactical conversation that I hope is going to inspire you deeply, particularly if you are at the beginning of your journey, because I take Carrie way back to the beginning, to how she started the Female Entrepreneur Association and all of the steps that it took to get her now to 3,000 monthly recurring members, which is so incredible. And what I love is that she really mirrors the way that I work when it comes to the woo and the practical strategy. It's an amazing conversation. You're going to love it. You know what to do. If you love these episodes, please let us know. It really, really makes a difference when you reach out, when you tag us, when you share this with a friend. And remember that all of these interviews that I am doing right now are to celebrate the launch of the Infinite Receiving book. So if you haven't pre-ordered your copy of that yet, get on the case too. Right, without any further ado, let's get on with the episode. Hello, you gorgeous human being. It is Susie Ashworth here, and you are listening to the Infinite Receiving podcast. And I'm really excited. I have got a juicy one for you, and you know what it means when I say juicy. I am about to introduce you to somebody who now I have known for, I don't know, like actually maybe even the start of my entrepreneurial journey. It's been, first of all, I started investing in her products and services, which are next level. And then we met at a Hay House author mastermind. And now I'm happy to say that you're my friend who I don't speak to nearly often enough. So without any further ado, hi, Carrie Green.
Hello. Oh, it's so nice to be here. It's so nice to see you again, and I'm just looking forward to chatting.
Yeah, it's going to...
And hopefully hearing more of your singing, by the way.
I am actually going to try
I love that.
not to sing throughout the entire podcast. Carrie, your name may or may not be familiar to some of my listeners, but Carrie is the founder of the Female Entrepreneur Association and author of best-selling book, She Means Business. And I think that what is really true about you is probably you are one of the most understated business badasses that I know. Like, the level of impact and success you have created is just phenomenal. And I am curious, like, how often do you like look in the mirror and be like, you did this? Like, well done.
Never. Although I really had a weird experience recently when I was at a party for my son, and I was stood with all the mums at school who don't know what I do, because we never talked about it. And somebody came up, this really sweet lady, and she was looking at me, and I was like, crap, have I parked my car in the wrong place? Like, she was like, I just needed to come over and say I'm such a huge Carrie Green fan. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is happening right now? It was like such a surreal moment.
Does that not happen?
So yeah, that day I looked and I thought,
Does that not happen to you?
It has happened a few times. Once in a supermarket.
Yeah.
Once in a supermarket, and I was like, thank God I'm wearing makeup. But I instantly think, crap, do I know you from somewhere? You know, when you're trying to like rack your brain quickly to think like, but yeah, it's very surreal. Most of the time, yes, just live in my own little world and my own little bubble, not really thinking about or recognizing anything that I've done.
So you started your first online business in 2005, right?
Yes.
God, how long ago is that?
Feels like a long time ago.
That is now 2024. So that is almost 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Holy wow. One, you don't look old enough. Two, what was the intention? Why did you start it?
So I was 19 and I was studying law at university, and I'd finished my first year and I completely ran out of money. And so I was trying to figure out what the heck am I going to do. And so I remember applying for some jobs, and then an opportunity came up for me to start an online business reselling phone unlock codes, and I was like, this is going to be more fun than selling ice cream at Cirque du Soleil, which was the other job opportunity. And so I decided to do it, and I had no idea. I mean, I didn't even know really anything about phones, let alone phone unlocking, but I literally learned how to build a website that was absolutely awful. I learned that you could use Google AdWords to drive traffic to your website. So I got a credit card and a spending limit and set up some ads, and the business was going. So yeah, it was crazy, because I remember I'd come back home from lectures, or I'd come back in from a night out, and I'd be sat there in my green bedroom on my little computer looking at how much money I'd made that day. And it would be like £300. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, I just made £300. I didn't do anything. So it was so surreal, and it made me realize, oh my gosh, like so much is possible. And it just sent me down this rabbit hole of the online business world, really. So it was amazing.
I think it's interesting that you're like, oh, selling phone unlocking codes is going to be more interesting than, or more fun than selling ice cream at Cirque du Soleil. Like, and actually before we even came on the call, we were having a conversation, and I said, you're good at solving problems. For me, when I hear that, even now, I'm like, ooh, that sounds like a problem that I would not want to solve. So I'm curious, if you go even further back, is that just an intrinsic part of your personality? Like problem systems, codes, that feels fun.
Well, I was just a reseller, so I mean, I did not have any part in figuring out how to unlock the phone. But I do think that I have always been someone that's wanted to figure out how to do something, like how to, and like I'm constantly spotting the problems that need solving.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do think that is very much my personality type.
Out of interest, what is the most recent problem that you have spotted that needs solving in the world, personally or business?
Oh my God, loads. We just, well, this is really boring and dull, but like we are doing a WhatsApp notification for this launch we're running, and just looking at that, noticing like all the little problems, like constantly looking for little things, like the chat wasn't turned on properly, and then we needed to change stuff. Like my brain is always going to the things that we need to optimize or fix or completely change or do better, like all the time.
So do you identify more as a creative person or more as a details person?
Actually, I would 100% say I'm more creative, but like I think with a very high attention to detail, which I think is probably stressful for people who work for me.
I say something similar.
Yeah.
I say that I am a creative person. I'm absolutely in the visionary camp. I hate detail, but I will notice if everything is not exactly as I want it, which I think is even more stressful, because I'm like, I'm not a details person. Why isn't that, and that the way that I want it? So it's really annoying.
Yeah.
So
Oh, I know, but it's just the way we are, isn't it?
it is just the way that we are. And actually, the right people in the right places will get it and will bring out the best in us, is what I have found.
Yeah.
So you set up this business and you said that you got taken down the rabbit hole. What was the rabbit hole?
I think it was just realizing that you could literally sit in a bedroom with a laptop and a internet connection and make money. Like just doing something online. I think it just blew my mind what was possible. And when I was in my third year of studying law, I went to night school to learn more about web development, and like I was reading like business books, and it was just really fascinating to me, you know, what was possible. And yeah, I I remember getting to the end of my law degree, and I had a place to go on to do the law practitioner's course to become like a qualified lawyer. And I remember going for work experience. I got work experience at Warner Brothers in-house legal team in London. And I was like, it was an incredible experience. Like they had this this cinema there, so you could watch movies before they'd even come out, and it was amazing. But I felt like someone had put like a jar over me, and I was trapped inside the jar, and it was like so suffocating. Like I needed to get out of it. And I realized in that moment, like, I have to do my own thing. I have to keep going with business stuff. And the freedom it gave me, the financial freedom, as well as like the freedom to do what I want, when I want, where I want, how I want. Like, it was unbelievable. Like, I was in such a privileged position that like none of the people that I was around at that stage in my life, like no one else was experiencing that. And yeah, I just thought I want more of this.
So how old were you at that point?
Probably 21.
Did they think that you were strange? And when I say they, I'm thinking specifically the people on the law degree. Were they like, who is this Carrie and what is she doing?
They didn't know. The only people that knew were with my best friend, Kate, who I lived with, and the people that I lived with, because I had my business was doing so well. I'd managed to buy myself this black Mercedes SLK, which I loved so much. But so they knew, but no one else knew. I didn't tell anyone else. They didn't know anything. So, yeah.
Why do you think they kept it so close to your chest?
Because I feel like I've always done this. I feel like growing up, in school and things, people always used to underestimate me. I was always like the dumb one. I was always the class clown. I was always the one messing around, getting in trouble. But on the side, I learned to play the clarinet, and I didn't tell anyone. Like, I didn't take music lessons at school. And I remember one day there was a music competition, and I came to school and I put myself in the music competition. I brought along a piano. The person who accompanied me, she wasn't part of the school. She just came into the school to accompany me, and I played the clarinet. And they were like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know you could play." And so I feel like I've always felt like an inner quiet confidence of knowing what I'm capable of, and I don't know, and letting other people underestimate me. I think it's just probably a thing from like childhood of, feeling like I was the dumb, stupid one, and thinking actually I'm not, and it not needing to prove it as much to everyone else, but more prove it to myself. So I don't know, I just didn't feel the need to tell them.
This is very interesting to me. And that last thing that you said about at some point deciding, actually, no, I am better than this. Was there a defining moment or time where you made a decision to be like, okay, Carrie, let's see what you're made of? Or is it just something that on reflection just kind of happened?
I think it's a series of things. So I feel really fortunate because my dad's really into personal development, and he, like, as a kid, he was getting me to watch Jim Rohn videos, and I'd be like, "Dad, who is this old guy?" Like, and he would go around the house repeating Jim Rohn quotes. And when I was about 10, he sent me and my sister and brothers on this program to learn about the power of the mind, and we stayed there for the weekend. It was a weekend thing, and we learned about visualization, and he taught us all about this visualization called the house on the right bank, where you could basically create a house in your mind and you could go into it, and there was this editing suite where you could create a movie of the life you wanted to live. And we did all these different exercises, like learn to put ourselves in a bell jar and protect our energy. This is when I was 10. We came away with this cassette tape that we could listen to every night falling to sleep. It was the visualization. And so I had him telling me all the time, like, decide what you want, write it down. So as a teenager, I remember creating a goal folder and putting in there the things I wanted. So I would take my grade cards from school and change all the terrible grades that I'd been given and put like A star, A star, A star, and change them all. And I put like, I got bank statements and put loads of zeros on the end. I think one of them was like 436 million or something. And like put in like the car I wanted to drive, and the kind of house that I wanted to build one day. And at the back there was a bottle of perfume of how I wanted my life to smell when I was successful.
Wow.
And I would get the perfume out and smell it, and it was this being completely consumed by this feeling that like I was here for more.
Yeah.
Like I am meant for more. I am here to be really successful. And so there was like a series of little things that also just happened. I don't know, just this bubbling up inside of me. And I think so much of it is to do with the things my dad shared. Like I remember he shared with me about cosmic ordering and like cosmic ordering from the universe, what I wanted. And he bought me Esther and Jerry Hicks, Ask and It Is Given. And so like that kind of stuff I was doing from a really young age. We'd go to meditation circles as a teenager. I would go to meditation circles with him. And so visualizing and doing that inner work became a massive part of my life from a really young age. And like I said, it just helped me to ground myself in the knowing that like I am here to be someone, to make a difference, to achieve something, to be successful. Like it was such a strong feeling. That just was like, you know, when you just know it's yours for the taking, that's how it felt.
I love the fact that you had this from such a young age, and it's such a powerful reminder for me now with my son turning 13 and my second daughter turning 11 on Wednesday to, you know, I send my son like podcasts that I think that he should listen to and that he'll be inspired by. But I've always been a little like, I don't want to ram it down their throats because they're going to learn just as much by watching me as they are by me being like, do this, do this, do this. And I know that you write about this in your book as well, but it's actually, it comes even more to life as you sit here and share. But hearing you talk about your dad in that way, it's like I have that opportunity with my kids because it is so ingrained. And that knowing that you talk about that you had back then, I probably didn't have that until 4 years ago. And so it's such a gift. Like that was such a gift from him to you. I am curious, did your brother and sister also run with it as much as you have?
No, they didn't. They are like really. So one of my brothers works with me. But I don't know. I think it's really interesting because like growing up, like they all went to a different school to me because I failed the entrance exam to go to the school they went to. So I went to an all girls school by myself, and my mum would take them to school and she'd drop me off at the train station. I'd catch the train to school. And so from a younger age, I feel like there was this whole feeling of like that I was a bit stupid, like that I wasn't smart, like I was always in the bottom class, like I was saying before. And so there was that kind of wanting to prove something to someone. But there was also the amount of independence it gave me from a really young age of like having to stand on my own 2 feet, go to a different school, figure that out. And so I think that I always wonder this, like, is it like, are you born that way or is it learned behavior? For example, growing up, like I said, I learned the clarinet, and all my siblings, we all played musical instruments, but like I was the only one out of all of us who actually pursued it. And like I got to grade 8 on the clarinet and was playing Mozart's clarinet concerto by the time I was 15. And my dad used to like encourage me to practice, and there'd be some days where I'd want to bloody throw that clarinet at the wall because I hated practicing so much. But like I kept going and I kept going. So I don't know. I just really don't know whether, is it innate? Is it learned? Like, I'm not sure.
I genuinely feel like it is a bit of both. I think that it is nature and nurture. I think that, you know, you see it with people when they come through the membership and will start right at the beginning, like you, that person, like, oh, what's a website? What's an email list? And then you'll have people who put the work and put the energy in and end up creating absolutely remarkable numbers. If I think about it with myself, I felt like not a loser, but I dropped out. I didn't do my A levels. I didn't get incredible results. For a long time, I thought I wasn't academic. I thought I wasn't creative. I thought so many stories, and I've chipped away at those. And maybe that foundation was always there, but I think that also, I'm thinking about Tony Robbins, who says, like, I made this guy. There's an intention that if you follow through, you can transform anything. And what I hear with you, which is absolutely necessary in business, is like a dogged determination It's you versus the thing, and I'm going to work it out no matter what.
Yeah, definitely. You definitely have to have so much determination, don't you?
Yeah.
A lot of figuring out to do.
Because what's interesting, I actually think, is you make it sound quite easy. Like, there's a part of me that's like, because you had that early success, which I think is amazing because you had evidence, and there's nothing that momentum likes more than proof that you can. Proof that you can or proof that you can't. It's easy to kind of continue the momentum. So that was super powerful and potent for you. I'm curious, do you recall your first failure after kind of that big success with the first business?
I don't know whether I would call this a failure, but when there was a couple of other ideas. Well, actually, there's quite a lot of things, different things coming up into my mind, because that I remember starting a few other businesses that I was like messing around with. Some of them, like, I got off the ground and they were fine, but I was so bored. They just didn't light me up at all. Like, one of them was business to business telecoms, so boring. And then I remember in 2009, I started this website called Mission to Make a Million in 365 days. And I decided to kind of create a little challenge myself to see if it would be possible to make 1 million in a year. And so I started this journey and I was blogging every day, and it got to day 65 or something. And I wrote my final entry, and I'd said, like, it was harder than I thought. And it was all the negativity creeping in and coming in, and then I never did anything else with it. Like, I just stopped it. And I always think that it's really interesting because it took me, because when I actually started the Female Entrepreneur Association, that was 2009, and then in 2011 I finally started the Female Entrepreneur Association because I was so in my own way, because I was so afraid to do it, because I was worried like what people would think with me doing it, and I was afraid to put myself out there. And so I got going with it. Then I felt like I had to do everything for free, and I didn't want to charge anyone. I just wanted to help people. I wanted to inspire people. I wanted to show people what was possible. And so for the first 2 years, basically, I didn't sell anything. I didn't create anything to sell. So it got to the end of 2012, so it was nearly 2 years, and I basically ran out of money, and I felt like a fraud because I'd won awards. Like, I won over like all these amazing people who were making money, and I wasn't making nothing. And I remember realizing I needed to do something about it. But anyway, my point is that actually, when I created my first, my Mission to Make 1 million in 365 days challenge, it was all about, how do I make money? How do I get rich? How do I make 1 million? And I totally failed. But when I flipped it around, when I started FEA, it was all about, how do I help other people? How can I just show up and be of service? It was that got me to the 1 million. So I think that first lesson from the first like Mission to Make 1 million blog, it really was an eye-opening experience that not at the time taught me a lot. Well, I'm sure it taught me things, but looking back now, I can see like how much I learned and what I then did right the next time to make 1 million.
I think that is such a powerful lesson that is so easy to forget, especially when you're in a place of scarcity, especially when you're like, actually, I need some money to pay the bills, or I've got team members, and fuck, like, I don't know where the next. And so it's like, oh, I'm just gonna this offer and that offer, and throwing things out and hoping stuff sticks, and actually shifting the energy and the intention. It's like the offer can be exactly the same. Actually, you might have an incredible offer, but if you shift your energy and intention to really knowing how this can serve somebody, energy and intention is everything. I think that it changes the results.
Oh my gosh, it is.
Yeah, I love that lesson. Thank you very much. I am curious though, so FEA as a platform in those first 2 years, what was it? Was it an Instagram account? Was it still a hub? Like, how did it work?
Instagram didn't exist by then. It was an online website, and then people could join the mission Basically, it was all about bringing women together with a story to share on how they built their business and inspiring each other, and it was really a community. And so when I first started, I began reaching out to people and asking if I could interview them and share their stories. And so it was called How She Did It, and so that was the first little series I ran. And then I remember someone telling me, you need an email list, and I was like, what's an email list? And so finding out about that and getting going with building my email list, and so I got that set up and going. So then I was doing a weekly email, and then I was doing like Woman of the Week. Like I had a blog that would go out, and then in 2012 I launched a digital magazine that was free. It was called This Girl Means Business, and that was completely free. And like I did it once a month. I do not know how I pulled it off. It was like a 70-page magazine that I did myself, and then I hired somebody to design it. And I'm like, how did I do that? But again, like it was all for free, but it helped me to build credibility. Like I put this like wish list together of all the people I wanted to interview, and Kim Kiyosaki was on there. I'd read her book, Rich Woman. I remember going on her website, going to the contact page and reaching out to ask if I could interview her, thinking, I'm never going to hear back. I heard back right away, and she was like, yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, this was way easier than I thought. And then I remember reaching out to more people, and like, I remember really weird things would happen. Like I wanted to interview Michelle Mone at the time, and I was invited along to this business awards thing, and she was one of the keynote speakers, but she also happened to just be sat on the table at the event. So I went over and I was like, would I be able to interview you? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, so she's checked off my list. And then so many weird stories on that. So I was doing the magazine, so it was just basically putting out content. I had my Facebook fan page, and I was like really focused on growing that. And so really those first 2 years were all about how can I create something that people love, that they want to get involved in, they want to be part of. How can I get them to kind of fall in love with what I'm doing and really build this amazing community of people? And so I was just literally pouring in value. And then I remember learning how to create like actual freebies, not just the magazine, but like a little freebie. And I remember doing my first freebie in 2013, and like 6,000 people signed up for it. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is crazy. And so then I started creating freebies and started really growing the email list. And those first 2 years were really working away at that and building my credibility by interviewing really like big name people. And then when I ran out of money in 2012 at the end of the year, and I met up with a friend, and he was like, you need to do this financial abundance visualization. So I recorded my own guided visualization on financial abundance, started listening to it, and I was like, I'm going to change this. So I did all the kind of stuff I do when I know I need to like change my vibration. And I got this email through from Lewis Howes. It was like his just newsletter that I never even opened. And I opened it, and then I ended up clicking through, and I ended up scrolling to the comments, and he left his email address there. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is Lewis Howes' email address. So I emailed him, and I was like, hey, I love what you're doing. If I can ever support, let me know, or something like that. And then he replied, and then 2 weeks later, it was like the 20th of December, and I ended up doing a joint venture webinar with Amy Porterfield. And like, I was so terrified. I like downed a glass of wine beforehand because I was so nervous. And that webinar ended up making me like, I can't remember, it was like $2,000 or something, but I was like, oh my gosh, I just made $2,000 in an hour, and I just sat there and just introduced someone. So then I started doing more of those, and then it's just kind of like, and then I was like, I need to get out of my own way and create my own thing. So then I created the membership. But it really took me a long time to get the courage to create something to sell, because it is hard when it's your message and it's your voice. That is terrifying, because we're all so afraid of being judged and what people will think, and it takes time, really.
Do you remember how big the community was before you built your first freebie?
My first freebie or my first product?
Your first freebie.
My first freebie. Well, no. It must have maybe been around, I don't know, it's a good question. I put my first freebie out there in March 2013.
Yeah.
I did another one in May that year. and I think maybe probably a couple of others. Then in November of that year, I launched my membership. And when I launched my membership, I had 18,000 people on my email list.
Right.
So I think those freebies that I did that year helped really boost the email list.
For sure. And just to clarify, because you said you ran out of money in 2012, you didn't have any other sources of income at that time. So you were literally working off the money that you had made before, or you had a side hustle or something that was kind of sustaining you?
Yeah, so the phone unlocking business, it was running at the beginning of starting the Female Entrepreneur Association, and I brought a business partner in. He happened to be we went out at university together. So when I was in my third year, he'd already graduated. So I was like, do you want to come and help me with the business? And he said, yeah. So we worked together on that for a while. And then we broke up, and we kept going with it for a little bit longer. And then it just all went pear-shaped. Yeah. And so that then had fizzled out. And so that income stopped. So I was literally, living off the money that I earned from that business until it ran out. And then I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do?
Were you stressed when you could see the money running down? Or again, was there a belief that even though you didn't know what you were going to do, that you would work it out?
I absolutely knew I was going to figure it out. I remember around that time being offered a job by somebody, and it was almost a situation where they were like, what do you want? Like, they would have paid me a really good salary. And I said no, because I knew I was on the cusp of something. I could feel it. I could feel the momentum. I could feel the impact that what I was creating was having. And I knew that there were just pieces of the jigsaw puzzle I had yet to figure out. Yeah. But I could feel it all starting to like slot into place. And like, I kept journals for the whole first few years of building the business. So when I say all this, like, I also want to say, like, there are tears stained into my journal on the days where I felt like it was impossible. There were so many times I did feel like giving up and quitting, and I had like 50 million different ideas, and I felt like I was a hot mess and all over the place. So there was all of that going on at the same time too. But there was this feeling of, I have to keep going. I have to figure this out. I can figure this out, and I'm going to figure this out. Yeah. And so it was at times very stressful, but I just kind of hung on. I remember having this quote on my wall when I started FEA, and it said, successful people hang on when everyone else has let go. And I would look at that quote on my wall and I would think, Carrie, just keep hanging on. Like, don't give up now. And it was so powerful.
Can I ask you about the name as well? Because I'm like, the Female Entrepreneur Association, that is the name. Like, for me, that in and of itself, if you're just starting up in business, that might be a name that you think, oh, I wonder if there is something. I wonder if there is a community that I can join, a network that I can join. Like, the name is just such a golden nugget. Did it just come to you? Were you like, shall I search for this? Oh, is it available? Like, tell me about the name.
Well, originally, because I first came up with the idea in 2008, and when I created the first version of it, it was actually I, Woman, Success, and the I was like inspiration, ideas. I can't remember what else it stood for. And then I got the website going, and I was too afraid to put it out there, so I stopped that. And then in 2009, I started it again, but that time it was Rich Chicks. And then at one point it was Recipes for Success. So it was a lot of different names. Okay. And then eventually it was the Female Entrepreneur Association, which I don't actually know why I landed on that. I think that because I was young, I was like 25 at the time, I think. I felt like I felt like I wasn't credible. Yeah. And that was my biggest struggle, is that I didn't feel qualified enough to be talking about business. I thought people would think I was a joke. So I think there was a big part of me that felt like this needs to be something that sounds official. Yeah. And so I don't know why I called it an association, but there really wasn't anything else out there. Like, all the other stuff that was for women was very, very corporate. Yeah. And it was almost as if it was created by a man. Like, it felt so cold. There was no emotion. There was no heart and soul. It was just boring corporate stuff, like nothing like you see today. So and there might have been something that I just didn't stumble across, but everything I found just was like, this is not for me. This is not doing it for me. So yeah.
Do you know what I love as well is seeing the journey? And by the way, like, I started my business in 2013. I did B School in 2013. So I probably was one of the 6,000 people who got your freebie back then, because I feel like I was aware of your brand right from the beginning of my own personal journey. But what I love is how many of the threads still are, like, the essence of what you started is still relevant, still important, still enticing people today. Even the names, She Means Business, the book versus the magazine, and just the community, like, that is still such a huge part. I wonder, is that easy? Like, is that just so natural and innate to the brand? It's like there would never be a question of whether these things exist? Or have there been times when you've diverted off path and then been like, okay, we need to come back to center?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So many times I've been like, this name is so boring. Why did I come up with such a boring name? Like, it's so long-winded. Like, I want to call it something else. Like, should it just be under my name? Should I just should it be my brand?
Wow.
Like, oh my gosh, so much. Should it just be She Means Business now? Like,
Wow.
yeah, I think we all go through this. And I think that's, again, like, so important for people to understand. Like, it's not like you get one thing and then that's it forever and you never question it. I don't think that really happens to anyone. I think I don't know about you, but like, I'm always questioning things. I'm always wondering, could I do it differently? Should it be different? But for me, I've like always just come back and asked myself questions to kind of gauge what feels like the right thing to do. And I don't know, I've always just come back to, I guess, home base of what it is. And yeah, it's just stayed that way. And I've created other things along the way, like different little offshoot brands that have fulfilled, I suppose, a desire in me to just create something new, but retained the original piece too.
How many people signed up for the membership with your first launch?
Well, I didn't actually do a launch originally because I didn't know what a launch was. I just sent out some emails to tell my subscribers that I had a membership. So it was open all the time. I remember when I think we got like I say we, basically me, myself and I think there was about 100 or so people that signed up in that November, December when I first launched it. But by the end of the first year, I have it written down in my journals, but at the end of my first year, I think there was like just over 1,000 members in the membership, which quite frankly, I do not know, looking back again, like how I pulled that off, in the sense of I was the content creator, the copywriter, the marketer, the community manager, the customer support person. Like, I was all the things.
Yeah.
How I did that to up to 1,000 clients, I do not know. But yeah, that's where we got to within that first year, which was what my goal was.
And how much were they paying?
When I first launched it, it was $25 a month.
How did that blow your mind? How did it feel with the first 100 people?
I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm actually making money and it's recurring revenue. And every month I'm now making this. And it was just so surreal. Like making like my first 25,000 a month was just mind blowing. And then it kept growing and growing. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've like literally in my journal, it's written down like, oh my gosh, we just had our first $100,000 month. And it just was so crazy. But at the same time, it felt like so normal. Like, it felt like it had been such a long time coming. It felt like I had arrived where I was trying to arrive. Like, yeah, it was amazing. I mean, it's life-changing, really, isn't it? Like, I remember having a goal to be able to travel business class and being able to do it. I remember being able to like go to the Maldives, donate, I don't know, I think it was 12,500 to build a school in Kenya. Like, just stuff I wasn't able to do. And I was like, oh my gosh, now I have this abundance of money and it's changed my life and the way I can live. It's incredible.
Have you ever had to work on your money mindset, as in, am I allowed this? This feels too much. Or again, has that felt like, no, this was the goal, this is the intention, and I'm open and available to it?
No, yeah. I feel like it's constantly working on it to go to new levels. And my money mindset has been something that I have worked on so much over the years, and just allowing myself to feel comfortable with what I can spend and what I can have, and we went through a house process of trying to buy a house for like over 2 years, and it started in one place and it ended up in a very, very different place. But it's because I went on this journey of like constantly having to upgrade and upgrade and upgrade and upgrade the way I was thinking to allow myself to have what I really wanted to have. So yeah, I'm like forever working on myself and doing all of the things, and for everything in every area of the business. Like I have found that like working with like the magic and like my true self, my, you know, the universe, and, you know, really tuning in and connecting with that is just as important as like the mechanics of building a business. Like you have to really understand how they both fit together, in my opinion, if you want to build a business and create a lot of success and abundance for yourself.
This is my catchphrase: faith plus action equals miracles. It's the magic and the feminine, and then it's the masculine and the structure, and it's that you know creates the miracles. So I 100% believe, well, live by what you've just said. And actually there have been times where I veered way too much into the feminine for me and just been like, oh, it's just all about intuition, it's all about magic. And then there have been other times where I've been like, oh, wait, like that balance, the yin and yang, is super important. I'm curious, that first year that you launched the membership, were you just working all of the time? Like, was it just all work?
Yeah, I feel like I worked a lot because my then boyfriend at the time, who's now my husband, but he is from California. And so I was back at home in the UK. And although I did live with my sister, so we did hang out, but I just worked. Yeah, I didn't have any like other responsibilities, didn't have kids back then, obviously. So it was just, I would just work, and I loved it so much. So I would work all day, all evening. I'd work on the weekends. I was really, really, really immersed in it.
How many members do you have now?
Right now in the membership, we have around 3,000, but we started another membership, which is a SaaS platform. So we have like other members over there. And so we've kind of like diversified over the past few years with the different things that we're offering, which took a really long time because the membership's 10 now, which is crazy. So it took us a long time to like actually do that.
Is your SaaS product the white label website, so people can kind of get their build their own branded websites?
Yeah.
That is, I didn't realise that you had done that. I didn't realise that was your other. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because we ran a 12-week program, and my God, the tech. Oh, well, obviously seeing it's in the membership too. People have so many tech issues. I think this comes back to the problem-solving piece of like, how can we figure this out for people and make this like a million times easier? And so being able to create our own templates and funnels and really help people get set up on the tech side, it just felt like something we had to do. So we launched that at the end of 2022. Which has been really fun. So yeah.
How have you found splitting your time then?
Really hard. Sometimes like I think back to when we just had the members club and I was like, oh, that felt so much easier back then. Because we've got like different programs and different things, but it's really like you don't just stand still, do you? Like, and I learned this from my first business, phone unlocking. The industry changed rapidly and it became very competitive and it became harder to make it profitable, and it was time to change. And I think in this online space, like everything has changed. Like there are loads of memberships out there now. There are loads of websites that support women in business. Like when I first started, there was hardly anything. I don't know whether there even was anything comparable to the members club that we had. Like, I'm not sure. So it changes, and you look back and you think, well, you make changes because you look for the next thing and the next thing so that you can create growth. But in trying to figure out the next thing and the next thing requires a level of dedication to well, it requires so much effort because to kind of slot new things into place. And I think for a really long time we just had it where it was like, we do this one thing and this is all we do, we've got it all figured out. So it's just kind of putting me and the team into a different place where it's like, actually there's a lot of figuring out to do here. And we've got to go back to, that phase of trying to do, putting in that effort, really.
Yeah, I can imagine. And so really it's the members club, that feeds the SaaS product because they need that content. Yeah. And then you've also got the planners. You've got Carrie and Co.
Oh yeah, Carrie and Co. Yeah. So we've got, yes, we do. We've got Carrie and Co, which is the products, which is the planners, the manifesting books and manifesting pens and the dream book and the wild and wonderful 5-year journal. So that's where I get to play with like creating things that I want to create for myself that I can then sell to other people. And that's been really fun. I am not as involved in that side of things as like the digital stuff, because my brother helps to run that side. But it's been really fun having like a physical product, and there's something really nice about holding a product in your hand that you have created. So yeah, that has been really, really fun. But like, honestly, like I remember having a dream to create a physical product before I started the Female Entrepreneur Association, and me and my dad went around because I was like, maybe it could be a box we send out every month and we could do candles and we could do this. And we went round to like all these different candle making factories, and I was like, it's going to cost a fortune and how am I going to sell it? And so I never did it. But then once I had a big audience and I knew I could create a product and I had an audience who would buy it, I was like, okay, let's give this a try now. And while I love creating the physical products and it's fun, you can't even begin to compare it to the potential and the profit margins of a digital business. Like, it just doesn't compare. So a lot of people come to me because they want to do something like that, which I would never say don't do it to anyone ever, because it's great and it is profitable. Don't get me wrong, like it is profitable, but the amount of effort that has to go into that for the profit margins you can make, it's just does not even compare to digital programs that we can put together.
Creating a course and then being like, here's the link, buy it. The work is done once, and then you get to sell again. What is the big vision for, is it each of the arms or is it the overall vision for you? How do you play with that?
Well, on the Carrie and Co side with the products, like the vision and the dream one day would be to like get more visibility for it by being like stocked. I'd love to be able to walk into like a department store and see Carrie and Co products in there. Like, would be so fun. For the Female Entrepreneur Association, we have been doing a lot of work last year on like revamping the membership and what we're offering, and so we've got a new business accelerator launching this year, which I'm so excited about. And
what is that?
What is it, you say? So basically I wanted to create something that would really help women to build their dream business and also their dream life. And so it's really looking at like the absolute fundamentals of building a really successful business, but it's like combining like the magic piece with the mechanics of it, in the sense of like, how do you tap into the magic that's within you, get it out of you, pour it into your business? Because you can create a lead gen funnel, a freebie funnel, but it might fall flat, like no one's interested in it. So it's like, what is the magic that has to go into that so that you actually get subscribers joining, and then you really build raving fans? Like, what does that process look like? So basically taking people through a process so they go from start to finish, so that they have all the pieces dialed in and built out and created, but then at the same time creating like their dream business operating system, so that they know they've got it there, so that as their team grows or as people come in, it's like, this is our dream business operating system, this is how we do things, and this is how everything runs. So they've got it there in a really organized way so they can create consistency, because like, I mean, you all see the same thing, like so many people cannot achieve consistent results because they don't know how to be consistent, because they're all over the place trying to do all the things, and it's so chaotic and messy that they can't have they're not having the breakthroughs that they want. So it's kind of like, how do we simplify this, fine tune it all, dial it in, and build it out so that you can get the results, but at the same time create your operating system, so that you get to have the dream business that then unlocks the dream life that you want to live. So I feel really excited because we've never done anything on this level before, and it's also the first time we'll be doing like one-on-one like coach mentoring, which we've never ever done. We've never offered it. So I feel like we're diving into a whole different world, because I'm used to having like a membership at like $47 a month mark. So it's a whole different world, and it will be really interesting to see what we can make happen, but more importantly the results that we can get for women. Like, that's what this is about for me. It's like, how do we really get those results? So yeah, I'm excited.
And for FEA Creates, what's the vision there?
Yeah, so this is kind of, so we're just kind of developing that, and we're building out some really fun extra tools so that essentially people can go to a website, type in some copy that they can use. We've got this little AI tool we're building at the moment, and so they can use those together, and they just type it in and it builds everything for them, so they don't actually have to go to a website builder and build it. They can just do it from answering questions. So I'm really excited to launch those features to make it easier for women to do the tech piece and it doesn't get in their way. So yeah, it'll be fun to see that come to life. So there's quite a lot of things, and I say all this, but like there's a lot of stuff that still needs to get figured out.
I think what's interesting, like from earlier on in the conversation, what I really heard is how in the beginning your fear and feeling of not good enough, and like I was too scared to launch this, I was too scared to do that, and also the courage that you had to actually do it, even if it took you time, kind of walked hand in hand together. Do you feel less fear now than what you did back then, or is the fear just different?
Yeah, no, I still, like everyone on the team knows, like how I still have so much imposter syndrome. Like when we launch a new program, I'm always like getting in my own head, like, is it going to be good enough? Are people going to like it? What if it doesn't work? What if people don't like it? And so I feel like I still have those fears and doubts and worries and that imposter syndrome that tells me, Carrie, you're not good enough. You're not good enough. Who do you think you are? Like, that is still there. And I think that's why, for me, that inner work piece is like so important to keep coming back to. Otherwise, I'd never be where I am. I would never have created what I have. So yeah, it's still there. I just continue to manage it as best I can.
Very effectively. Right, Carrie, this has been an absolute joy and a pleasure to talk with you this evening. Before we sign off, I wanted to ask you 6 questions that I'm asking all of my guests right now in celebration of the launch of my new book, Infinite Receiving. And so, quick fire responses. What does infinite receiving mean to you?
Oh God, it just sounds so magical. Just limitless, wide open, being available for everything that I want. That's what I think it feels like.
How good are you at that? Being limitless, wide open, being available?
I feel like I would consider myself very good at being able to tune in and open up to receive what I want. Though I would say that I do work really hard. I do work on it. Like, it's something I'm very intentional about and work on.
Beautiful. Where in your life right now could you open yourself up to receiving a little more love? I say where or who could you open yourself up to?
Trying to be quick.
That's okay. No pressure.
I don't know. Probably myself.
Yeah.
Like, maybe I can be really hard on myself and demand a lot from myself, which is hard with like 2 kids and a business and lots going on.
Yeah.
So maybe myself.
Do you know what? We've not spoken about your kids. How old are they?
5 and 3.
How are you doing it? because everything that you have just mentioned, it's a lot. So how are you doing that?
I mean, it has been a lot. Like, I think when I had kids, like, I did struggle for a really long time. I found I honestly didn't even want to keep going with the business anymore. I mean, this could be a whole other podcast in
Yeah.
itself. So, like, I think, yeah, I really did feel like I just want to be a stay-at-home mom. I don't have any inspiration in me. I don't have anything to share. So it was really hard I don't feel like I'm actually fully out the other side of it yet, to be honest. Because I think once you lose momentum with showing up and
Yeah.
sharing, it's hard to get back into it. And I definitely lost momentum and I just didn't know what to say anymore. And yeah, it was hard. We could have another podcast episode on that.
Yeah, we probably should. I do actually remember speaking to you when you were in the thick of that and you being like, I just don't know. I just don't know what it is that I want to say. And I hear you also when you say, I still don't feel fully back. What do you think that it is? Was it literally just a momentum? Was it just a lack of practice? Or was it something else that kind of eroded your confidence a little?
I think that when I had my son, my world became about him, and I just kind of wasn't interested anymore in showing up and sharing. Like, it felt like my business stuff felt somehow insignificant, and it wasn't, but it just felt insignificant to me. And so it kind of lost its meaning. And I try and share like really from a vulnerable, true, authentic place. So it was really hard because I was like, I don't know how to share anything because right now what I'm feeling is not very inspirational. Like, I don't feel connected with my business. I don't feel the same feelings and the same meaning isn't there anymore. So I can't just pretend it is. And so it was just difficult to find my way back to like recognizing that what I did want to say. And also, like you said, like when you just get out of the habit of it, you just lose momentum, and then you run short because then you feel like you've been left behind and that everyone else is doing all these great things and everyone else is growing loads, and then you just feel like, like I don't even know. I feel like I'm flailing around on the sidelines, kind of thing. But I think a lot of people feel like that. I just don't think many of us talk about it.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, that's how I felt.
How did you get back on track?
I think just over time, like really just over time, and like asking myself loads of questions. And now Casey's in school 5 days a week and Marley's there 4 days a week, so I've got more time to show up and work now than I had before. But honestly, just really just time to adjust. It was slow process.
Okay. What is your greatest attribute?
I think it's the way I think, the way I show up and think, and that even when it's hard or challenging or frustrating, my ability to keep going and to keep questioning and to keep asking myself questions like, how can I make this easier? How can this be more simple? And instead of getting lost in the frustration and challenge of it, I think I do try and pull myself out and ask myself questions that will get me to move forward, which I think is why I've been able to create so much success, is because of that work that I do and the way it makes me then think and act, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. What is one thing that you are consciously working on manifesting right now?
Well, I'm in loads of things. A house, my house. I want to build my dream house, and I'm trying to manifest that.
Yay! Final question. Where can you allow yourself to be more supported in your life right now?
Definitely in my business, for sure. I need to welcome in all the support there.
Thank you so much. I know that today's conversation will have been not only really inspiring, but just super insightful. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Can you let everybody know where they can find you and more about your work?
Yes, probably on Instagram on @IamCarrieGreen is the best place, or femaleentrepreneurassociation.com. But thank you so much for having me. It was so nice to chat with you. It's been so fun, and I really appreciate it.
You are super welcome. If you have loved this episode as much as I have, then do myself and Carrie a favour. Share like your top takeaway on Instagram. Tag us. Let us know what is going on with you. And in the meantime, please remember that faith plus action equals miracles. Thank you for listening to Infinite Receiving with me, Susie Ashworth. I'd love to share with you my Infinite Receiving activation audio. Go to susieashworth.com/activate infinite receiving.